Now it's the elf's turn.
Spiky Bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Rob Baer from SpikyBits.com. And today we are taking a look at the new Lumineth Realm Lords Army Box, Army Set, Starter Set. I don't know what to call these things anymore. This is going to be the kit that you're going to want to get if you're probably interested in these guys before their actual release comes out. Now it's $185, and we'll go over the values. But remember, you can always get your hobbies for less from Miniature Market or DiceHead.com. So this particular kit, we saw it with the Sisters of Battle box. It was a little bit more. I think it was $210 if I recall correctly last Black Friday. And what they do is they'll put a codex in here and they'll put some extra models. At that time, they were easy to build models, so they weren't the full multi-part kits that were going to come later on down the line. I think they came out in February of 2020. These are the actual multi-part kits themselves, so you don't get quite as many models in this set, but I think to make up for that and maybe to keep the price point lower, you get a lot of accessories, some game aids, so to speak, in here. And at first I was kind of skeptical. I'm like, it's basically, to me, a start collecting box and, you know, a book and stuff. And once we start breaking down the value and such, you'll kind of start to see it. So there's Teclis, the brand new Teclis. I don't want to make any judgments about him quite yet because I haven't seen it in my hot little hands. He was one of my favorite characters from back in the day. I actually had a High Elf army. Rob playing High Elves? No way. I loved it. These guys, here's a brief overview. So why I say it's basically a start collecting set right here is that you get, 3 sets basically. You get an HQ, you get your cavalry unit, and your warden duders right here, your spearmen of old come back to new. And so this, is something I could definitely see going for the $95 or $100 nowadays, but then they add in, the rule book, and I'm actually very impressed with this rule book. I'm very impressed with this whole set, to be quite honest. So the models are very challenging, I can tell already right off the bat to put together, so just kind of keep that in mind. But we're going to go through it all here. So value-wise, the Dawn Raider Duders are probably going to go for about $60 if we had to compare it to some recent releases. I imagine the Wardens are half a set. I imagine they're going to come in a box of 20 like we saw at the last Undead release. So this is probably half a set here. And if I had to guess, the Light of Valtharion will probably go for $40. He may go for more. He's actually on a 50mm base, which I thought was kind of neat. He has a wide stance, so to speak. Then when it comes over to here, your books are generally $40, and then your data card sheet or War Scroll cards. Now these are a little bit smaller than we've seen in the past, and they're not that fold out. They're not the actual War Scrolls. They're more like data cards like we see in 40K. We really haven't seen anything like this, if I recall correctly, in Age of Sigmar quite yet. And then you get everything that you would get in Age of Sigmar and normally in a War Scroll card pack right here. And this was interesting. I thought this was just a cardboard cutout, but it isn't. I'll show you that. And then of course a dice set. So we generally know these go for about $30. This, we've seen stuff like this go for like $10, $15 in the past. And then the cards themselves, $10, $15. Depending on how you want to look at it, once you start adding up all those values, you're probably going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of $235 or more, depending on how you value things. Which, at $185, you're kind of like, that's not like the normal super bundle value I get from a Games Workshop product. And I get that, but I think what a lot of it is you're kind of paying for that. I don't want to call it download content, but maybe like early access sort of type deal, right? Because we don't know when these guys are coming out. They might come out next week. They might come out in July. We saw it with Sisters. They came out Black Friday weekend, and then we're out in February 2020. So we might not see these till back to school time. It's really hard to say, but it's got the full book. It's got the full models. So in theory, if you're gonna play Realm Lords, you're probably gonna want to jump in and scoop this up because there is, combined value savings. Now let's dive in and see exactly what you get and how dope it is. So once you pop the top, all the sprues are up here, and we'll look at those here in a second, and I do want to make a comment about some of that. And then you're going to get the little divider poster, which I think are pretty neat, and these fit in an 11.5 by 17 picture frame. So if yours isn't damaged, but that's the whole point, is to keep your books, which are more valuable than your poster, from getting damaged. You could scoop up a poster frame and put that up on your wall or what have you. And then you're going to get to the squishy goodness inside, the warm nuggies, so to speak, where the rule book, the instruction manual, the punch out dice, your core rulebook, whatever, and your little movement measurer right there. The War Scroll cards, or rather the accessory cards, because these are actually just reminders of your Aether Quartz battle traits, which are kind of cool, and they have the new, which each one down there at the bottom, which you're probably going to be doing a lot of. Your command traits, some of the lures and stuff in here, and then your war gear, command traits, your artifact of powers rather, and stuff like that. So they will definitely probably provide useful in the game, at least at first. You know, sometimes this stuff changes from time to time. So we'll go over. We'll do a brief run, you know, just kind of flip through the rule book and kind of talk about that here in a second as well, because I really like the design and the feel of this particular one right here. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about models, because I imagine a lot of you, that's what you're here for. So this instruction manual actually comes pretty loaded. You know, they've got the sprues, you know, in case you need to identify anything here. Your warden's going to get 2 sprues at each of those. So that box set is actually going to be pretty stacked, or perhaps it won't be a $30 box. It'll be a $60 box because you can actually make 2 squads of it. I'm not really sure what it's going to be, because I'm going to show you this is a unique size of sprue that we haven't seen before. And then the light of Altharion up there, the base sizes, and then you get into the actual assembly of things. Now this particular model right here, it's a hollow model with a hollow base. There's so much hollow stuff going on in here right here. I don't really know what's happening. The leg actually attaches to the base and doesn't really attach to anything else. It looks like it just it just kind of sits there, and there's just like this weird little armor plate that kind of locks in. The cape is cut in half, so you're gonna definitely want to watch out for that. Use your gap filling stuff. You know, I talk about this a lot, the Tamiya extra thin cement. This stuff is great for sealing gaps. And then this plastic putty here, which both are in the links in the description and the comments. If you want to scoop those up off Amazon, they're actually kind of hard to find. In stores, Hobby Towns have them, but generally, other than that, model shops and things, so they're a little bit harder to find, but I've had great success with them in the past. Getting back into this, so you can see where the helm goes on. But it's a really interesting build as far as like the dynamic kind of posing and everything like that, and everything is kind of looks to be attached to each other. We're definitely going to put that one together and take a closer look at it. Then jumping over to the Dawn Riders, if you remember the old, gosh, I forgot the old Elven horses. I'm the worst at this point. The old High Elf Cavalry, and the Alien Reavers, they were the kind of like the flankers, so to speak. I wasn't a big fan of those, but the old the Silver Helms, that's what they were. Gosh, it's been so long. It's like it's been 5 years at least, right? So these guys, they go together, not just a left and right half and a tail. Well, tails in some instances of it, but it's looking like it's a top half, a bottom half, and then another depending on like the stance. So this is going to be really interesting to see put together, because you're going to have, you know, some mold lines going up and down the legs here, but also, you know, sandwiching the head and or tails for some of these in. That was kind of, you know, it's a lot when you're trying to assemble like all these things. You almost need an extra hand sometimes, so be on the lookout for that. It may be a little troublesome. Now what I do like is that the legs go on separately, but it's even more parts, you know, once you start getting into all this, and then putting the reins on, the shields, the sword, you know, if it's a squad leader, or these big spears right here will mount on the side. I don't think there's any of them with the lances down. I don't remember. Oh yeah, this guy has one at the ready. I do like this flag, or the banner. Basically, it's really cut into and really well detailed here. But these, man, these horses, they're something else, that's for sure. So take your time with that. Another cool kit, because if you remember back in the day, the High Elf Spearman kit, a lot of people used the robed legs for a lot of different conversions. Nowadays, it looks like that might be still viable with these, because you actually put the torso on the top. So there'll be this little bit of openness right here, like on the front, where the scaled plate kind of goes over. But you could do a lot with that, as you can see here. You know, they're very striking when you put another torso on top of it, perhaps. It might look, you know, pretty good, but we'll have to wait and see what people do with the conversions there. That's the squad upgrade, and then you've got these guys here, which all go together very similarly. These are big spears, like bigger than big. Like, I'm not sure people are ready for how big these spears actually are. I was shocked. I don't know how you could transport this stuff either, to be quite honest. I think a lot of folks are going to be buying those plastic boxes with and putting steel at the bottom, or getting the baker pans, you know, with the plastic covers on the top. Those are great too because they're already, you know, pre-magnetized and they're stackable. It's just kind of hard to find larger sizes and stuff. So there's a look at the sprues, or how the sprues go together. Now here is the sprue of the wardens, aka the spearmen. So the first thing you might notice here is the fact that this is a weird sprue size. Like, I mean, I guess not really in the scheme of things, but with we have seen in the past, like this will fit, is still in a standard size box, but I guess we've never really seen these, which really all they do is sometimes is just that sort of thing. But it's just really interesting to see that, you know, these are kind of connected on the front, and I don't know, it just strikes me as kind of a weird sprue configuration. Now the spears themselves, like I said, these things are ginormous. I think they're about 4 inches long. So storing these are definitely potentially problematic, and there is a lot of sprue lines all over all of this. But as far as the detailing goes, you can kind of see, let's get a little closer here. You can definitely see, you know, the scale looks great. The detail work looks great on them for sure. The plumes and everything look really good. And there isn't a lot of bits and bobs, just like, you know, the swords, like everything kind of seems built in. The shields look pretty cool with their runes and such. And then the squad duder right there. And then you've got the super plume as well. So pretty cool looking stuff there as far as the wardens go. And like I said, you're gonna get 2 identical sprues to make the 10 right here. So it's really hard to say at this point, you know, when you snap these together. And then that's like basically half a box of what we've seen in the past for troops. So there's a good chance that could be a $60 retail kit. Now here's the light of Altharion all together on this. Remember, he goes on a 50 mil sprue right there, so you can see a lot of the detail work, and he is hollow. It's kind of crazy, but and then right here, all the little tassels and everything on there, the details cut into the cape itself. His detail work on his armor is very good. So it all looks very great. It's just going to be, I imagine, a lot of dry fitting on this one, just kind of eyeballing it there. And then we've got the horses, not the silver helms of the past, but something new, something different. And it looks like all 3 of these are a different sprue. So this will probably retail, if I had to guess, for $60 here. But as far as, you know, your options go, you're going to get pretty much everything in the box set. So the spears themselves, or the lances, are actually shorter than the spears, which is kind of shocking. They're only about 3 inches on these ones. All the detail is cut in, very similar to how the silver helms were back in the day. And then you've got, you know, all your reins and everything there, and all the little motion inducing fauna or terrain on the bases is very cool. I like their helms. I like their shields right there. But they are all kind of different as far as the shields go. So here's what I was talking about with the top half and the bottom half. That just, I'm not sure about that. I'm starting to feel like this box is going to be more and more for, you know, not so much for beginners. So if you're a beginner, you're starting out, this army looks dope. Hey, you might want to slow it down and take a little bit more time, because it may actually take a little bit more time, you know, just to process it and everything like that, and really get an idea of where stuff is going and dry fit it. And, oh crap, I forgot this little bit of sprue, it's not going together right, and then buy you time and things like that. And I mean, like I said, the legs are separate. Even these duders right here, the front and backs are separate. These are a lot of parts for just, you know, kind of 5 models right there. It's a lot. It's a lot. All right, let's take a look at the battle tome. I almost said codex. See what I did there? The battle tome's actually pretty sweet. Like, it's got this foil stamping right here, gold foil stamping. The pages are like leafed in gold, and there's a nice little bookmark page right there. You know, some stuff we've seen before from Black Library. It's a very vibrant cover. This isn't anything that you know, I'm doing. The book itself is kind of small. It's only about 100 pages, and they're kind of hamstrung on units. You know, as far as we've seen pretty much everything that's coming out. Here's a look at their points if you're curious and haven't seen that yet. That actually has been posted up, I think, on a German website or something like that. Here's the table of contents. So it's pretty much just your standard, hey, here's the war scrolls. We've seen all that stuff. Maybe we haven't seen quite a closer look at Tekelis yet. or Teclis, but you know, everything else we've pretty much seen models for in that regard. And then allegiance abilities, all the stuff that you would expect from a Battle Tome of Age of Sigmar. And you know, just flipping through it, it does have a little bit of hobby stuff in here right after they show you the bestiary of like all the painted miniatures, which I kind of like how they started doing this again. They used to take all this stuff out, but now it's becoming more and more of a thing. Allegiance abilities, and then it gets into the actual factions. But then when you get to the back, there really isn't that many war scrolls, right? We know Teclis is the beast. He's always been that super duper caster. Light of Aetherion, and you may have noticed that I didn't see Tyrion in here, so that's really interesting. Not sure if that's going to be a different faction or something like that, or maybe somebody they can ally with, or maybe they'll come out with some sort of campaign in the near future, because I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I guess we'll find out here in the near future. So that's, I mean, I don't really want to get into the rules and such like that. I haven't even read this book yet, to be quite honest, but it looks great so far, and I definitely want to catch up on the lore and see what's going on with the new High Elves in the Age of Sigmar. So remember that time I said that the spears are really big? Well, they're really big. They're silly big. I mean, they look great, don't get me wrong, but you're going to have a hard time storing this for sure. And don't even get me started about how many times these things are going to snap off. I would be very sad about that. But I mean, look at the spearman himself, the warden, you know, standing up on a piece of rock. All of them got little bits and bobs and things they're standing on. I mean, the detail work looks great. It's definitely simulating motion. Shield looks great. It really notches in there while he's holding the hand. These guys go together pretty well. Like, you don't have to do a whole lot of extra work or anything like that. They're pretty straightforward. So if you're a newer hobbyist, you know, you might want to just jump in with these guys and work your way up to some of the more harder assembly items like the horses and such. And here you can see him next to one of the revenants from the Sylvaneth. Here you can see they're roughly a little bit bigger, but pretty much on the same sort of size as far as you know, basing and things like that go. So it's definitely the same scale if you're worried about any of that. Now, next up is going to be one of the Dawn Riders, and these guys, like I said, they have a 3-inch spear, give or take, so we're not going to really focus too much on that. Going to go on the oval as you would expect that they would go on right there. The new cavalry-sized oval right there. And, you know, there's a lot. You're going to have to do a lot of work with these. So the left and right halves, you're going to want to be very careful that these match up and that you're holding it, you know, and maybe you want to use this stuff. Maybe you just want to use super glue. Whatever works, just give it, you know, a little extra time. You can see all the mold lines, like even trying to scrape them down, they're still very obvious. And probably, unfortunately, you know, the most is they go all up and down the reins and all down the back right here, down in the middle, down the split, which really shouldn't be there either, but I just wanted to show you how easy it is to screw that up. And then down each side of the legs back here, and then even up and around the tail, and then back to I guess whatever that you call that. I guess it's a howdah saddle. I don't know, something. It's something. But I mean, the armor looks great. It looks very haughty, but yet baroque at the same time, I suppose. And you know, lots of motion and stuff going on up here. These guys are just a lot of work. They're a lot of work to put together. So just take it slow, you know, focus in, maybe listen to a podcast or some sort of, you know, inspirational Age of Sigmar music in the background, and you'll get it done. And then we're going to take a look at the Light of Aetherion, and he's legit. Like, check this dude out. He's very dynamic. He's got his swords, of course, you know, drawn and everything like that. And it's really hard to see, you know, like you can do a lot of tricks with this as far as like paint goes. It's really easy to forget that thing's hollow. It's a really exciting and dynamic model that, you know, like this arm is attached to the cape. This is just attached to here, and the cape is actually attached to the little plants or wheats that's kind of just flowing in the wind right there. So this is actually attached to the hollow base. So it's really easy to forget, you know, and it's got a little bit of play. Don't get me wrong. Like, you can move it, and it's got a little bit of play. So dry fit everything. You can see the gap going down here. Where is it? Oh, right there. So be careful of that. You want to make sure that you fill that with some thin cement, and there you can see it a little bit better on the inside, or use that plastic putty, which is great stuff too. But overall, I think this is definitely my favorite out of the whole set, but probably one of the hardest to put together. Well, that is it for this one, folks. Thank you very much for watching our unbox and review of the new Lumineth Realm Lords Army box, Army set, whatever you want to call it. Available now. You know, it's probably not going to be around for too long, so if you're interested in them, you can definitely get yours for less from Miniature Market or dicehead.com. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let us know, you know, did you play fantasy? What do you think of these what do you think of these mad cows, these battle cows, these angry cows, and what's going on here? I'm really excited to get this guy and maybe Teclis in my hot little hands and see exactly how they look. But until then, we've got these guys. They're here. Check them out. They are very interesting models, to say the least.